Yeah, it's on. Got it?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Max.
Yep.
All right. Hollywood Max back there.
All right. Are we good?
Well,
We're
thank
good.
you for inviting us tonight to tell our story of Hadassah in Jerusalem and our experience in Kareem. Really, there's two Hadassahs in Jerusalem, and that's the one we were at. What's that? In Kareem. What did I say? I don't know what I said.
You said cream.
Yeah, I did. In Kareem. That's right. And our story was we were on a tour to Israel. We take a tour, we try at least once a year to lead a Christian tour there. I'm big on making Christians Zionists and make them understand the purpose of Israel and how to stand with Israel. So we've taken our tour, and John had been battling what we call diverticulitis for quite a few years prior to that. But he started having some problems while he was on the tour, and so I was talking to my tour guide who lives in Jerusalem, and I just started alerting her. I said, look, I'm being proactive here. My friend here is struggling with some physical issues, and we were down in the Dead Sea. And I told her because he was really starting to have his problems then, really bad, and she just said to me, well, just don't let it happen at the Dead Sea. She said, wait till we get to Jerusalem. And so I said, well, I can't control that, but we just began to be proactive and just knew. And we knew of Hadassah because Liz had introduced us to Hadassah many years ago. I'd gone to some fundraisers. We did one of those at the convention center, remember that? And he spoke, who was the guy that spoke? Pearl's father. He spoke.
His father.
Yeah, amazing. It was an amazing story. And so I heard the story of Hadassah then. So I remember when me and Susan were in our room and John was struggling, and I just kept thinking, thank you, God, that Hadassah is here in Israel, because we had heard so many wonderful things about it. And so I knew that if we got into a crisis, we had somewhere to go, because we knew the story there and the work that they did. So in Jerusalem, he got very, very ill, and to a point that we were very, very concerned. He had pretty much a total, I don't want to steal his thunder, pretty well a total obstruction in his bowel, and he was becoming pregnant. Even though he weighed about 130-something pounds, he lost so much weight through all his problems. So I called my tour director there, and she came to the hotel, and we got him in the car, and we drove him in down there. Here at Shreveport on top of that, so we didn't know how that was going to play out because it's a holiday and you're going to a hospital, so we didn't know how that was going to play out. So we're going there, and he's not in good shape at all, and to say the least. And we get there, ER it's not like American hospitals, I must say that. It's more self-service in a lot of ways, which was, I could deal with that if I just knew that. I didn't know that. And kind of once I figured that out, we joked, we were in the ER, and I was just hanging with John, and they said, you need an x-ray, and I said, okay. They said, go get one. And I said, well, where's that? And they said, oh, it's down the hall, and so.
Down the hall is 30 yards.
Yeah, so I'm walking John, he's in severe pain, and we walk down there, and I knock on the door. I said, hey, my friend needs an x-ray. So we'll get with you. So anyway, and because it was Shabbat, it was pretty rough because it was mainly Arabs working, and so and they had Arabs in there, so there was a lot of fighting and screaming going on, and all that goes on there. I don't even go into all that. But then we go back to the ER, and they said, well, that's not good. And they said, you need a CAT scan now. And they said, go get one. I said, well, where's that? So he told us where to go and knocked on the door again. They said, oh, have a seat, we'll get you one. And so we did. And of course, they thought at that time he had a mass in his bowel, so they thought he had cancer. That's what they thought. They told me, they were telling him and I that this is not good. They thought he was going to die. That's just where they were. And so, long story short, we got admitted, went into the hospital there. And then once the doctor came, it was amazing. This guy was an incredible, incredible man. I don't remember his name. Do you remember that? Yeah, something. And anyway, just an incredible man. Chris here was on our tour with us, and so I was staying with him, and Chris decided, I just decided I was going to stay because the tour was about to end. But Chris volunteered to stay with John because they were going to keep him for several weeks. So Chris here, his friend, stayed with him. And it was funny because we actually we'd had a dream, and that he was going to be John was going to be in this MMA fight, and we were going to fight for his life. And Chris was in the dream, and I was in the dream. So I thought, wow, here we are fighting with our friend for his life. And then when we spent the night there, John and I did, and the doctor came in the morning and told us the scenarios that could happen, and he wasn't sure what he was going to find when he went inside there, and so forth. So what the unique thing of Hadassah is for us is when they went into surgery, Hadassah has its hospital, but then the doctors live right on campus. There's like right there on campus. So his case was actually a case study. After the surgery, the doctor came out and said, in all my years of surgery, I've never experienced what we saw in there. We've never had a case like this. It's the worst case we'd ever seen. So when he opened John up, he did not know what to do. He was frozen. And so he called the chief of staff there, who lived next door on Shreveport, which was really a miracle, that he was there. It was a holiday, he was in town. So he came over, and another doctor came to 3 surgeons to take care of John. And through their brilliance and their experience of working in this industry of the healthcare industry there, they were able to put my Humpty Dumpty back together here. In a sense, they were able to do a miracle, really save his life at that time. And I don't want to, he can tell his experience there, but for us as Christians, these people just accepted us. They didn't look at us as anything but human beings that they cared for and were going to take care of. And so I so appreciated their heart to take care of my friend, and Chris was there the whole time for the recovery, which I'll let him say anything about that. But this is John West. He's on staff with me at our congregation, and it's been a long journey. And what you see here, the extra weight on him has happened just since he's returned. Have you weighed recently?
Yeah, it's like 190.
Is that the 190? Probably more than he wants to weigh, but nonetheless, we've gone from 130 something. So that's an amazing miracle that he's done. But I want to introduce him. This is John West. He's from Shreveport. Mom's from New York, but we won't hold that against you. But he's from Shreveport. His father was a pastor here, as well. His father's passed away of cancer a few years ago. But he's lived in this community a long time. He's been with us quite a while. So this is John West. Let me introduce you.
Boy, Liz told me I had some time. I was telling Miss Debbie here, I said, I'm glad. She said, you know, speak for about 20 minutes or whatever. And I said, I don't know if I have that much to say, but I'm glad that I have 20 minutes because I'll probably cry a little bit. Even just hearing it again, I'm still very emotional about it. I don't know where to begin. I'll begin telling you a little bit about myself. My name is John. I'm the oldest of 7. I can remember my dad was a pastor, and he was a very, he moved in a lot of different denominational circles, and he wasn't somebody that just fought about a bunch of different things, a lot with different doctrinal things, but one thing that I was always raised with, and that he would fight with people about, is about how the Jews are God's people. And he would, I'll never forget, as a young boy, he went to Israel back in the 80s, and I always remember he was gone for a while back, and I was so excited just to see pictures. I remember seeing pictures when we lived over here in Queensboro of Israel. And I always just thought that it was so cool that my dad had gone to a place that I would see on the news or just, read about in different places. And I thought that was always really special to me. And so I hope to go one day. I went for the first time in 2006. It took a long time before I actually mimicked my father in that way. And so, my dad passed away in 2012 of prostate cancer. It was something that they did not catch early enough, and so he passed away. And I tell you that for a reason I'm going to get to a little bit later. About 3 years ago, I was having a lot of abdominal pain, and I didn't realize, I know now, but I didn't at the time realize that I have an incredibly high pain tolerance. I just I was an athlete growing up, and I just had one of those, let's put some tape on it, we'll go for it. But you can't do that with your insides, as I found out. It doesn't work like that. And so for about, 2 or 3 years, I was just in a lot of severe pain. I went up to a hospital here locally and got checked out because I knew, and they said, listen, you just have a bad case of the runs. You need to just go home. And that was in July. And in August, I was in the hospital. I got diagnosed with acute diverticulitis, and they said what you're having is a flare-up. And I ended up in the hospital for 11 days here locally. And after that, in the subsequent years, I would have flare-ups from time to time where I would just get knocked down basically for 3 days or a week, and I just kind of soldiered on a little bit. At one point, I thought I was getting better, and I would feel good, and then all of a sudden I'd go back down into a tizzy and have a flare, but it would be really, really bad. And I remember one time we were in Ukraine, and I almost had to go home. I had to stay for a couple of days just because I was so debilitated, and I didn't understand why. I went back to the hospital, and they were like, well, we may have to cut on you to relieve this pain and everything. And I was like, okay. I started thinking about it, and but at the same time, I was a little bit hesitant just because I wasn't comfortable for some reason. When you talk to the doctor, sometimes you just have that gut feeling that it may not even be a commentary on their professionalism, but you understand that that's not the person for you. And so that was in the back of my mind when I had a flare-up here recently, this last time in the year, and I'd gotten to the point where I was like, okay, I can't live like this where I go up and then I go back down, I go up and go back down, because in my mind I was like, I got stuff to do, and I don't want to have this thing where I have to worry about a flare-up sometime. And so in my mind I started going, well, you know what? If this doesn't get better, I'm going to have a surgery here. I'm just gonna do it. Because they've caught this thing, and I don't want it to go any further. And so at the time, I had signed up to go on the trip to Israel, and I had something, just a real stirring in my spirit that I had to get to Israel. There was something in me that just said, I've got to get there. And so even though I was a little bit uncomfortable, I wasn't really in a place where I thought that the symptoms I was having, I didn't really connect it to my diverticulitis, honestly. And I'm not going to go into all that because it's just gross. But I didn't have the same thing. So I had this stirring in my spirit that I was like, I've got to get to Israel. And I was on the plane, and I started to experience what I thought was simply gas pain. And I noticed that my belly was just kind of bloated, and I was like, man, this is kind of weird, but I wasn't having any of the other pain that I had previously had, so I didn't connect the two like this is connected to my diverticulitis. And so we get there, and so I'm like, I just need to get some gas sacks or something, and I'll be good to go. I mean, really, that's you know, that's that athlete coming out where I was just kind of dumb. But so I sat there, and so I started taking it, but I noticed that I wasn't getting better, and I started getting a little bit weaker, and I just started to feel depleted. And you know, there's part of me that was like, I don't want to be that guy on the tour that has to, you know, go and be weak in that sense. I didn't want to be that person. I kind of wanted to tough it out and do it. But after one day, I said, you know, I'm going to take one day off, because at this point, this was my third trip to Israel, and I got an extended tour there while I was there this time. It was my third time, and so they were going to some sites that I had been to before, so I just said, look, I'm going to take this day off and I'm going to sleep. And I had slept all that night, and I woke up the next morning, just went and ate breakfast, and then I slept for another 8 hours. And that was something that kind of cued me into, I said, you know, there's something really wrong, because I just slept more than 8 hours the night before, and then I woke up for maybe an hour and a half, and I slept another 8 hours, and I said, something is wrong. And so I went and I met the group at a meeting that was taking place, and during the meeting I just had this epiphany where I was like, I need to go to the doctor. And so I said, I come to find out a lot of the people around me were like, thank God that he decided, because they could see that I wasn't getting better. They couldn't see I was getting better, and looking back, they were telling me things like I would sit in weird ways, I was move, because it was just one of the ways that I dealt with the pain. And so we went to Hadassah. I remember sitting in the back seat, and Hadassah there at Karen was on a hill, and so it was almost like driving up to the mad scientist lab when you're looking at it. And it's got a purple hue about it, and the lights, and I was just like, where are we going? It's got a helicopter pad there. It's got 2 helicopter pads on it to transport people quickly. And so we went in, and like I said, it was an experience. It wasn't like the people were very professional, though. And one of the things that always really struck me about Hadassah when we were there is you know, the bedside manner of some of the people that we ran into. I remember the guy who was the surgeon who looked at the initial CAT scan. I remember when he came and told me, there was just this look of sadness in his eyes, because he knew how serious it was. And he said, look, this could be cancer, this could be something. And he said, you have a mass, and he said, you cannot go back, and we're going to get you into surgery right now. And he was very, and he just said, look, he goes, you know, you're gonna be okay. And there was a strange sense of peace that came over me when I knew that what it was. I knew what it was. A strange sense of peace came over me. It was like, okay, we can deal with this now. I had heard stories about Hadassah from different people about how they have state-of-the-art medical technology, and their doctors are some of the best in the world. And I was sitting there just thinking, you know, when I traveled with Pastor Tim all over the world, and I was thinking of all the places that this could happen. Israel is the best place that it could happen. You know, we do work with people in Ukraine, and heard stories about how the hospitals there, they'll switch out your dialysis stuff with things that's not even real. They're just pumping water into you, kind of things. And so, and I've done missions work in Africa, where I've been to the hospitals in Africa, and I'm very, very thankful. I believe God orchestrated it that way. And so we got up into a room. We had they said, you know, one of the things too about them when they're talking about surgery, at least, the guy said, look, we'll be in at 8 o'clock to come talk to you. He said, go to sleep. We'll be here 8 o'clock. And they got there at 8 o'clock. It wasn't like waiting 2 hours for it. They came at 8 o'clock. And when he came into the room, my doctor, I just felt this wave of peace hit me, that I was in the right place at the right time. And he came in and he told me, and so he kind of told me the options, and he said, this is what we're going to do. And so I remember being carted down to the surgery room and talking with the anesthesiologist, who was a real smart New Yorker, which I can appreciate because my mom is from New York and I've been called a smart aleck more than once in my life. I always, the last thing I remember about the surgery is he looked at me and he said, "Choose your dream." Choose your dream. And I just thought, I want to dream that I'm better and I want to get out of here. That's his thing. So I didn't have a dream when I was there the next morning. The next thing I remember was waking up in the ICU with another associate pastors of ours, Pastor Jimmy, saying, "Hey, how are you?" And I was like, I don't know. And I looked down and I had a bag, and so he explained that was one of the options that could happen, and I was just so out of it. I was just kind of like, okay, so what did they do? And they kind of explained a little bit to me. One thing, and I'm just being honest with my story, this is what stuck out to me, because I've been in the hospital before, and my mom was really into alternative medicine. Okay, we did not go to the doctor really for anything. My mom, she's I had my last 4 siblings at home. Well, my mom had her last 4 siblings at home. She's out of alternative. And if you know anything about alternative medicine, there's a lot out there. And what that means is basically we just smoke pot for everything. No, we had a cold. She was just here. Guys, not true. So when I was there at the hospital, one of the things I had a dislike for morphine. I did. I didn't like the way it made me feel. When you talk about dreams, it was just all over the place. And I noticed that while I was in the hospital, I knew that I was on something, but I knew it felt different. And so I asked the guy, I said, "Am I on morphine? What is this?" And he goes, "No." He said, "Not exactly." He said, "Our doctor here doesn't like to give people straight morphine. He likes to mix it." He said, "You're on a cocktail." And he said, "You got a little bit of something in there that takes the edge off of feeling that." And I was like, that gave me another level of these people know what they're doing, because they knew enough about the effects of people that they could take the edge off of that. Because if you've ever been on morphine, it feels like you're underwater. And it's not a good, at least for me, I didn't like it at all. And so we were there. I was in the ICU for one day, a few hours before they moved me into a room. And around this time every year, we celebrate Yom Kippur and things like that. We believe it's a holy day, and Pastor Tim had been praying. He just really felt like one of the numbers that was highlighted in this season was the number 18. And he talked about how 18 represents life. And as I was being wheeled into the room that I was in, I looked up, and the number on my room was 18. It was 18, and it was just another thing to confirm to me that I was in the right place at the right time at Hadassah. And I started thinking about, my father always told me this before he passed. He said, if you want to have a relationship with God, he said you have to be comfortable with mystery. And when I got to the room, it was the first time that I'd gotten my phone for a couple days or a day. I don't really remember. But I checked one of the things that I always like to do on my father's birthday is I like to just post something that he said to me, and I had put that quote on there where, Facebook sometimes reminds you of your memories, right? So it pops up. And I'm sitting there in the hospital and I see that quote and I realize that I just came out of surgery and I'm in a room of life on my dad's birthday. And I was very thankful. Very thankful for all the staff there. I was thankful that I was in a place of peace, and I knew I was at the right place, even though, hindsight's like, maybe you could have done this, maybe you could have done that. Maybe. But I have to believe that I was in the right place at the right time. And I was so thankful to be there. And I got moved out of the room 18 to room 11. And 11 for us means it's a number of transition. It means that you're in transition to something. And that's what I felt like I was in now. In Hadassah, when I was there, even though, they came in, they said, hey, you're going to have a bag, and I have one right now. I joke with people sometimes. I've changed my definition of witch doctor to not somebody who's like in Africa practices witchcraft, but which doctor do I listen to? Because they'll both tell you the dates and there's the things, and I'll never forget a couple days after I had the head guy. I didn't know he was the head guy at the time. He came in and he said, how are you doing? And I said, I'm doing really, really well. And he goes, listen to me. Do not let anyone in America cut on you for 4 months. He goes, they always want to do it too quickly. Do you hear me? 4 months. And I said, yes. I said, thank you, sir. Thank you for all that you did. I was thanking him for his advice. And he goes, no, listen to me. Look in my eyes. 4 months! It's like 5 would not hurt you. I got you. And I was in such a place of peace that even though, there's part of me that's like, I want to get rid of this as soon as possible. Part of me trusts the staff at Hadassah that they know what they're doing. So I'm waiting 5 months. I'm waiting 5 months because I looked in his eyes. And so it was from that point I said, you know what? I'm in a new place now. I'm in a new place, and like I said, I'm very thankful, I'm very emotional. They told me. Pastor Tim told me, he said, we had a lot of people volunteer to stay back with you. He said, Chris is going to stay with you. And that made me break down, honestly. Because I know Chris better now than I did before this trip, obviously, because we spent 10 days in a little room together. And he's helping me get up and everything. But maybe 2 months before the trip, I had a flare up, and I was in one of those times where I was just down, and I had a dream, and in the dream, Chris came up to me like a military soldier, and he picked me up and he said, come on. He said, I got you. And he carried me, and he was shooting at anything that was trying to get to me and everything, and he sat me down in a safe place. Short part of the dream. And so when he told me that he was going to be the person to stay with me, I said, oh my God. I said, this is supposed, I am in the right place at the right time. And I'm moving into a transition. I moved into room 11. And when I got into room 11, I looked at the picture on the wall there. And it's, there's no phrase or anything underneath it, but I looked at it and it was a picture of an almond tree. And it was budding. And I remember the passage in Jeremiah where Jeremiah said, what do you see? And he said, I see the bud of an almond tree. And he said, you have seen well, for surely I am watching over my word and I will perform it. And I knew, that was just another thing that I knew. He was watching over me in that place, and it just broke. I was just like, I'm in the right place at the right time. And so from that point on, I can tell you that I've had 2 stays in the hospital in my entire life. And I knew that there was something special about this one because I had this super peace around me the entire time I was there. It was like I was in a bubble of peace, and nothing was going to get, even with the challenges of having the language barrier with some of the nurses and staff. It was good. It was even with the challenges of learning how to do maintenance and everything, because they get on you, they're hardcore. It's like 3 days, they're like, we want you to walk. And I'm like, I don't feel like walking. And they said, you're going to have to get up and sit up. And I was like, okay. I said, here, hold this pillow and cough. And I couldn't do that. There was something, I could not cough because my insides just felt like they were gone. And so I was sitting there, and they kept coming in like, you got to cough. You got to cough. And I was like, I mean, it hurt. I'd never been that weak ever in my life where I felt like I couldn't even, I was frustrated because I couldn't really even do this by myself at all, because I couldn't even sit up. And and so I started to, of course, I wanted to get better. And that was one thing that always struck me too about Hadassah. Every time I had any interaction with a nurse or anything like that, that was one of the phrases that they would say. Whenever they walked out the room, they said, get better, get better, get well, get better. It wasn't something where, and I can say this with all sincerity, I believe that they meant it. I really do. I don't think that it was just some corporate thing that they think is a good idea. They really did mean, they said, get better. And just hearing those words made me go, you know what, I am getting better. I'm in a transition. Something is watching over me to watch that my destiny is going to happen. And so as I began to walk the halls there, slowly, might I add, very slowly, I didn't really leave that floor for a good 10 days. Maybe went down one floor, maybe once there. But I saw the names of the people that donated to the hospital from America. I saw that as I walked slow. I could see the names on the wall, and I just had that moment where I was like, thank God for those people. Thank God that they have people support that organization in America that makes some of the technology possible, that make the modern day wings possible. And I was just really thankful. I mean, there were some hilarious moments there at the hospital. It is a teaching hospital. They have a lot of students come in. It's a little bit overwhelming sometimes when you're on drugs at 7:30 in the morning and 8 people come in and talk to you. And they're like, hey, and kind of when you're waking up, it just it sounds kind of like that. And then all you really remember is they're like, you're good, get well, okay. And so I really, that's kind of a story in a nutshell. I mean, I could be a little bit more comedic with a few of the things that happened there, but I just wanted to come and thank y'all for coming tonight. I just wanted to share. Thank you, Dr. Jon, for hosting this. I just wanted to share that's just part of my story, because my story's not over. And I was walking slow in Hadassah, but I'm going to be walking fast because of Hadassah, and I'm very grateful for the part that they have played in that. So thank you. That's all I have.
I understand they wanted you to come back, but it was just the 4 months.
I would like to go back. I don't know if it'll be financially possible for me to do so, but I would like, because over there, as far as I know, that they don't have a payment plan, so you have to have the money up front, and I would like to. I don't know. It may still happen, I don't know. But yeah, I would like to go back.
Explain to them what they're going to do.
Oh, I didn't say, I forgot that part. That's actually part of the good part of the story. They did take out 6 feet of my large intestine. Yes, yeah, which is almost all of it. But the good news is they said that I have enough left to where they can reattach it. And outside of going to the bathroom maybe 4 times a day instead of 2, they said I'll live a normal life. And so, what's that?
I go back there.
Yeah, I know. Do you have some $35,000? Yeah, yeah. That's someone was like, "How can I help you?" I was like, "You got an extra 35 G's laying around?"
Let me say that.
Yeah.
Surgery and everything.
Yeah, it's cheaper. Yeah.
The surgery and everything was $35,000
Yeah.
total.
Total.
Now, if we would have had that, I've talked to physicians here.
Yeah.
You're talking $300,000 to $400,000 for the same surgery here.
Mm.
Now they did scare me because they said we need payment to me while he's in pain.
Yeah.
So and I said, oh, okay. I said, well, do you take credit cards? And they said, yes, we do. So they took mine.
Yeah.
But and we are considering going back. And the doctor was willing. He said he would be glad to do that.
Yeah. He did. I have his email and everything in contact. So. I had forgot. I mainly wanted to talk about my experience with the hospital, not so much myself. Yes.
So when they're saying to you in probably broken English, get better, what they say in Hebrew is Refuah Shlema, which translates as complete healing.
There we go. I'll take that. That's good stuff. Yeah, and so I feel like I'm on the path for to complete healing. I'm doing what the doctor said. I'm not being rebellious in any way to what he said, because, like I said, I looked in his eyes.
Oh, the Jewish mom.
It was really funny. Well, one of the things that was funny about that whole story was the nurse came back in and felt like he had to explain to me what he just said. And he's like, I want you to understand the subtext of what he's said. And I'm like, what subtext? There was no subtext there. It was very clear. So, I got it. So, yeah. But again, thank you for hosting this too, Ms. Debbie. I really appreciate the organization, and I look forward to going complete healing.
The other thing that I can contribute that might help put in context the way they treated you in such a very matter-of-fact manner. I'm a proud father of one of my sons who actually spent 2 years in the Israeli army. And the stories that he told me in his monthly calls were hair-raising.
Yes.
But there's a pattern between his experiences and your experiences. The common thread is that chances are every single person who helped you had been through the training of the Israeli army and had probably served.
Yes. Yes, and I joke about it, but it doesn't really bother me because my mom's from New York. We're used to being direct. We would go to Grandma's house every year, and it was kind of one of those things where if someone doesn't like you up in the north, they just like straight up tell you. It's not like the South where they smile at you. Hey, God bless your heart. You can say anything you want about a person as long as you say God bless your heart before it. In the New York, but they didn't. But no, I actually enjoyed it. I like directness, and so it was. You could tell from the hospital there at Hadassah, though, that there is a growing up in the environment that they grow up in. It is a survival in a lot of ways, and so that's one of the reasons that it's kind of one of those paradoxes. It's a terrible thing, but it's one of the reasons that they're so good at what they do. It's because they're faced with every single situation you can imagine, and they know when stuff is serious, and they know when to just kind of laugh off stuff and help me laugh off stuff too. And I'll tell you one story. While I was there, they were having all that stuff with the border there with Gaza, where they were running Well, the people that were being injured at there were coming to Hadassah, so they serve everybody. And one night I had a guy poke his head in my room, and he was looking around, and Chris had stepped out for something, for coffee or something, and they were looking around, and this guy was poking his head around, and I thought he might have been part of the custodial staff, and so I was like, we had asked him to come and dump the trash or something, and I was like, the bathroom or whatever? And he goes, oh, yeah. So he goes over to the bathroom, and as he shuts the door, this kind of all happens at once, as he's shutting the door, I noticed that he has a white wristband on him, and I was like, wait a minute, this guy's not part of the staff, he's a patient like me, what is this guy doing? And Chris had to come in, and I said, get this guy out of here. I was like, tell the nurse, get this guy out of here. And the nurse came, apparently this guy was from Gaza, and he just needed to go. So he just came in my room, came in the closest room, decided to wash his feet on the sink while he was there. And, but I wasn't really that nervous about it, because the nurse, you could tell, they see stuff all the time. And they see stuff that's way more serious than the situation that was happening, and he was just laughing. He was just like, this is just ridiculous. And so that was another thing, because in my mind I was thinking, I'm an American, there's tensions there. What could this be? And the fact that the employee from Hadassah is laughing let me know it's okay. It's okay. It's all good. So yeah. So I don't know. If anybody else has any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
I have tuberculosis, which is a milder form.
Uh-huh.
I'm familiar with a lot of the dietary restrictions.
Uh-huh.
So were you able to eat the cucumbers and tomatoes at the Israeli breakfast?
I like pickles, but I'm not really a cucumber person, so I didn't really eat that. And I don't eat tomatoes like in salad or anything. I just eat it in lasagna and pizza. So yeah, no, I can eat. That was one of the things that was funny. That was just one of the more hilarious things. Is that the dietitian come in and she'd say, "Now listen, we're going to put you on this diet." When I started to get to where it looked like I could eat solid food, they're like, "We're going to put you on this diet, and you can't eat white cheese. You have to stay away from white cheese." And so, she told me some stuff, and I started asking her because, I've been battling this for 2 years and kind of figured out that really it's diverticulitis and things. It's kind of a personalized disease. Like some people can eat certain stuff, some people can't. It's just a matter of you. It's really a very customizable thing. And so, she left, and then the surgeon comes in. He comes in, he goes, "The dietitian area, let me come in?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, great." And he goes, "Man," he goes, "you're looking really good, you're improving a lot." He goes, "We're going to get you some salsa, we're going to get you some white cheese today." He just walks out and brought me some white cheese, and I ate it, and it was delicious. So, yeah. But, if nobody else has any other questions, I am. Ms. Debbie, do you want to say anything about...
I want to thank you for sharing with us that experience there.
Okay. Well, you're more than welcome. I really do count it a privilege to be here and begin to share. I'm glad that I didn't cry too much. I held it together. I held it together. So.
The doctor said, "No crying."
Yeah. Yes.
So Elizabeth, I guess, kind of started this. She took a Hebrew class with me. I was teaching at Adagudachim. I'm just going to show you how this ties together in the big scheme of things, and I know what you meant about the 9 and the 9:18 for Yom Kippur, as you were saying. And because of her, I made a connection with Pastor Tim, and I started teaching at Christian Center, so I'm now part of the Christian Center family. Pastor Tim's part of our family. And because of my classes, Elizabeth got excited about Hadassah, because I am a life member, my kids are associate members, I'm their 5th generation. My dad, it wasn't diverticulitis, he had lung cancer, and he died in Hadassah Hospital, and I felt the same kind of peace that he was getting, the best care anyone can get. And she became the president of Hadassah in Shreveport because of her connection, and she's the one who put together the Judy Pearl program. And the connections just keep going forever and ever. There's going to be ripples. But I want you to know you are now part of our family and part of the Hadassah family. So for you and for Pastor Tim, I want you to know that we believe that there's such a thing as the Shreveport Chapter of Hadassah. The region doesn't believe we exist anymore, but we believe we exist still. And this is proof. And the Shreveport Hadassah has made you an associate life member. And has made Pastor Tim an associate life member. We appreciate you and the stories that you tell, and the fact that you got to come home and tell this story during Sukkot. I mean, did you hear all the connections here? They were there for Shavuot, they were there for the 70th birthday. You came on Sukkot, which it says here, to be able to tell the story. And it is such a blessing that you came, and we greatly appreciate everyone who came. You're all part of our family now. And you can be members of Hadassah if you want. It doesn't take much. There's membership forms, there's donations, but that's not what this was for. But we are very, very grateful for you. We love this story. Love this story.
And there's cheesecake.
And there's cheesecake, white cheese.
I want to get
All
pictures
read
of
it
that.
together, yes, please. Our official Hadassah life members now.
That's right, official. So, you know, it's the largest women's organization in the world. And if you want to be a member and you're a man, you have to be an associate member. And that's why it says that. So the word Hadassah, as a matter of fact, and I'm about to come out with, for anyone who wants, because it is Sukkot, to shake the lulav. So, you know, I'm going to tell you one of my favorite Sukkot stories, which I tell every single year, that happened at the Christian Center. I think it was a second grader, and I'm glad I don't remember who it was specifically, because I brought out the lulav to shake. And I made everybody open up their Bibles. There's a Bible at every desk, and it's in English, but they were also reading parts of this in Hebrew. But I said, okay, open up to this page and find this section, and it tells you why you're supposed to keep this holiday that we were celebrating. And it talks about 4 species, and this is what you do. And I'm about to take out the lulav for you so you can see. But you take up this lulav, and there's 4 different species. There's a palm, and there's a myrtle, and there's a Hadassah, which is the myrtle, and the willow, and the etrog. And you take it, you shake it in these directions, and you shake it to the east, everybody's facing east, and you shake it in front, to the side, and behind, and that side, and up and down, because it's where God is. And this little second grader says, you can't shake it down, because the devil's down there. and I want to say, really? But I don't say really, because I don't know what his family was teaching him, and that's between him and his family. And I feel like it's a superhero story. There's like this arch enemy down there that's so powerful that, you know, Superman can't go down there. What? This is God we're talking about. So I said, you know, on the fly, I said, well, you know, okay, we're going to shake it in all these directions, and we have a force field around us now, so God's protecting you in all directions, and you're good. Because we had a lot of good ones like that. So I think every single holiday, I have a story from Christian Center that would make me appreciate more and more what we know and what we do. We're about to take that out, but that's part of what Hadassah is, and the connection here, is that it is one of the 4 species that make up a lulav, just like all of us together make up our community and make up this world. And so, and it's also the name of Esther. Her Hebrew name is Hadassah, and Queen Esther, the one who sometimes maybe hides who she is, but is very proud and saves her people. So all of that is together. So I'm going to take out the lulav, and anybody, I hope you get to stay. We like to say that part of the dessert you get to have on Sukkot is lulav shake. We can do it here. We can go into the sanctuary and our little other indoor sukkah, but counter.
This might be an interesting place to share something that I discovered when I was serving the congregation in Canada and was one of the squad of chaplains for the university, which included a lot of Aboriginal students and just a couple of elders as part of the chaplain squad. That meant that all of us chaplains and all the religion majors got to participate in pipe ceremonies. The first time I was in one of those ceremonies to the very end, after everyone was done with the pipe, the elder took it, shake it east 3 times, south 3 times, west 3 times, north 3 times, up 3 times, and down 3 times. You could not be over with that.
there are people on completely opposite sides of the globe
Because it's
come up with the exact same ritual choreography.
They'll come, I'll tell you how next time. I'll tell you how.
And
Because
you'll
it's
tell
not
me
opposite
because they're
sides.
the 10 of us, right? So
It's not opposite sides. There's a lot of connections between that pipe and what we do and what they do, a lot of connections. And we have someone here who's connected to the tribes who, they said, could we put up feathers in our sukkah? Yeah, you can. You can. Even if it's a harvest holiday,